Hey, everybody, and welcome back to a very, very special episode of Photographer Life Check. We have the incomparable Polly Rungle.
No, I wanted to do that for you, your little. I wanted to do that for you. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I love how you hype people up.
It's my favorite thing to do. And y'all don't even realize, well, you obviously realize based off the title of the episode, today is our birthday.
I can't believe it.
First off, literally, happy birthday, Polly. How are you
Thank
feeling on your
you,
birthday?
girl. We at the 30 and then at a 131. I'm like, I'm officially an auntie. Like,
It's official. I
I
love
think
being 30. It's
ah,
good.
I feel good. I feel like I'm really, loving the woman I'm becoming, day by
Come
day
on.
and just loving myself more. I really can't complain. God is
Come
good. I'm a person of
on.
faith. So, I'm
Period.
just feeling thankful and blessed, truly.
Truly. And then also, happy birthday to Black women photographers. Our network here at Photographer Life Check. This is the greatest day of all the year. Like, oh my God.
Hello? World stop? No.
Okay, world, stop. Carry on.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I want to start off with you like I do everybody else, but
Mhm.
a little different. For you, it's
Oh no.
founder fit check.
Oh,
So, founder fit check. Eventually, this podcast will be
that's
in
fire.
person. Okay. Hit the email for funding, BT dubs. But until then, we're going to hit our founder fit check like we do our photographer fit check right
Okay.
here. So, can you talk about something you're wearing? It could be hair, jewelry, the braids. How you feeling?
Let's see. I got my African hoops.
Which I love them.
For my mom, she recently went back home. Home for me is Nairobi, Kenya, and she got this at the
Yay.
Masai market for me, in the city of Nairobi. So,
That's so sweet.
thank you, thank
Today
you.
for me, I mean, I guess I'm a gold girl too. Because this tee is just a basic little tee from Target.
Yeah, this is exactly so basic. I don't even
Right?
know where I
Like,
got it.
I mean, we still look fabulous. Like,
Okay.
no shade, we still look great. But I am a gold girl also as well. So I got my cute
That's
a
so
necklace
cute.
that I keep on me all the time. It's my
I love
mom's.
it.
Anytime I tell somebody that they think something happened to my mama, she is okay. Mama is alive and well. I've just had her necklace since like high school, and I almost never take it
I
off. It's my
love that.
favorite thing.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Okay, so let's get into the photographer life check of it all. In case you're tuning in for the first time, photographer life check can be how you're feeling, something incredible that's happening in your career, or like anything in between. I have a feeling I might know what the founder life check today is, but you tell us, Polly. Let us know.
Oh, okay. Found a life check. Like you said, it's our anniversary. This is year 5 for us, which is insane to think about.
It
5
happens so
years.
fast.
Listen, like, and you think about what's happened in just the world these last 5 years.
We don't need to get
Girl,
into it,
you're right. Let's stay
but
focused. Keep me on track. Keep me on track. No, but for real, like, it's just been an incredible 5 years just of like so many highlights. I was telling you before we even hopped on, like, I can't even really truly keep track because I was just thinking about just the 6 months of this year alone. Like, we've
yeah.
announced partnerships left and right. We've distributed a 5,000 grant with Flickr and another
Come on.
50,000 with Nikon,
Let's
and an
go.
additional 20,000 in camera gear with next to Nikon. It's just, and that's just, the first 6 months. And, we just came off of a summit that you hosted for Black women in music. Again, that was in partnership with Life Nation Urban. If you did not tune in, you better go and hit, play. Okay,
Come on the
rewind.
YouTube. You know where we at. Black women
you
photographers on
know, you
YouTube.
know. Go stream those episodes with some of the just best music photographers. And we literally just announced this past weekend our 4th year of collaboration with Live Nation Urban to provide paid opportunities for Black and African women creatives. So, you can go apply for those opportunities to shoot their latest festivals, tours, and shows. And that was just a few things off top. But when I
Yeah.
think about this 5 years, to date, with our recent round of Nikon and Flickr grants, we've distributed over 200,000, nearly $250,000 in just grant funding to help
That's
Black and
crazy.
African women creatives pursue their creative projects, to give them business funding, whatever business expenses they have, and then again, I think now it's about a little over 80,000 in brand new camera equipment, thanks to our partnership with Nikon. We are the leading, if not the most amount, of grant funding to specifically to Black and African women creatives. And our grants, our different initiatives, they're always open to our international community as well, which a lot of great opportunities do not have that, accessible to those who are based internationally for many reasons. But, we really try to provide resources to everybody and, try to create, educational programming and whatever things that we can do to really help our members at every stage of their growth, every stage of their career. And the biggest thing has been funding, right? And so that's why we really, everybody needs funding to get their projects off the ground or just their business expenses alleviated, whatever it may be. So I'm very, very proud of that because, for our first anniversaries when we kicked off our partnership with Nikon. So to do that in year one, that's how we celebrate.
So quick.
That's how we celebrated our first anniversary, was that first annual 50,000 and camera grant funding, and then we've continued it since then. And again, thanks to them and other partnerships we've had, now we've given almost $250,000 to Black and African creators in just grant funding, and then an additional 80,000 in camera equipment. And so that alone, our workshops, our creative talks, our summits that you host.
And I mean, even just getting folks hired, there's a number we'll never fully know for how many women we've gotten hired here at BWP.
Exactly. That I haven't even touched.
Exactly.
I haven't even gotten to that part yet. The whole reason.
Okay, wait. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
for the people who might not know, let us give a little context, because as you can see, she running down the list already.
I'm really trying to think, and I'm like, my head is just overwhelmed with just all the incredible things has been happening just, again, like I said, this past few months. But yeah, when I think about the whole 5 years and as a whole, I really truly haven't even processed yet, because I'm the type of person that's always on the go. I just keep going.
And I feel like moving. I got some questions in here about that.
I can't help it. I think it's thanks to my mom. She was the same way. I just can't help it. I try to pause. I've tried to be more intentional about creating that pause before my body makes me pause, right?
Okay.
But when I think about it, again, I'll probably spend these next few days this week to really just sit still and really process what these 5 years have been. I started journaling a little bit of okay, lessons I've learned as a founder, ooh.
Yeah.
and it really just made me dang, so much has happened. But yeah, for those who don't know, I started the organization to get us hired. That was the first and foremost, the only goal was to get us hired. Everything else has just been a great cherry on top in that sense. When I started my journey as a photographer, I was back in Oregon at the University of Oregon, and I was studying journalism. And, I didn't know any other Black women photographers. I mean, I'm living in Oregon. For those who don't know, Oregon is a predominantly white state, right?
Yeah.
I went to
Oregon got a little history too. So. It's not that many Black people there.
Yeah, like you said, due to the history of the state. And so, yeah, I went to a predominantly white institution, but I went to my first NABJ conference, which stands for the National Association of Black Journalists. And I went to my first Black journalism conference. I was like, oh my God, here is to see a Black journalist. And then I learned that there's Black women photojournalists and Black women photographers across the country. They are doing it. To see them, being able to have an actual career in the industry, it never dawned on to me that could be my career. Because I come from a very traditional immigrant background and wasn't seen as a traditional career in that sense.
Right.
That running joke of doctor, lawyer, engineer, etc.
Right.
Yeah, but
And you came home like, I want to be a photographer. Okay, a photojournalist.
I want to take photos, Mom. This is why you're sending me to school.
Right.
Like, no,
I
but
know she was looking at you like,
no, her, but my dad. Oh my god, my dad especially. I kid you not. Like during my undergrad, and again, this is my undergrad in college. I'm already at the college studying journalism. He sent me a list of like top 10 degrees to fail, and journalism was on the
oh,
list.
he said, baby, you working backwards.
Like, are you really sure about this? I'm like, yeah, I'm already here. But I think that, I mean, from that, I take things like that as just fuel to the fire, right? Like, I really like, okay, I'll prove you wrong. I'll prove myself
There you
wrong type
go.
of energy. Like, that's the type of thing like that always like kicks like lights a fire under me. But yeah, so I was there at the conference. I was like, oh my God, like this is incredible. And so, Twitter, I'm calling it Twitter. It'll always be Twitter to
It'll
me.
always be Twitter.
It'll always
Exactly.
be Twitter. Twitter was one of my favorite platforms at the time, and I made this Twitter list of Black women photographers, just to follow for myself. I wasn't trying to think about an organization or anything. I was just
Right.
creating that list for myself, where I can have inspiration. See other Black women photographers doing it in their respective cities. Here in the States and also internationally, to just keep me going where I was at. Fast forward, I graduate college with a degree in journalism, still doing photography on the side, right? Never figure out how to actually pursue that as a full-on career. Just
Right.
always been doing
Yeah.
it on the side, right? Doing internships, fellowships. I get my first job in New York in social media for New York Public Radio, doing it social media for one of the news programs there on NPR. Again, still doing my photography on the side outside of my 9 to 5. But here we are at this time where COVID was looming, but all these protests were occurring during the Black Lives Matter movement at the peak of it.
Yeah.
And here I am in New York, and one of the editors, and just like the conversations I saw happening across the country, but even in the own newsroom I was working at, we're in New York, and I remember them hiring like two white, men photographers to document the protests, and I'm like, we're in New York City, and they couldn't, they,
You can find one.
they did not know where to turn for Black photographers, and that was
Yeah.
happening across the country here in the United States, and I was just like really baffled by that, because we're in like the biggest city. If I mean, I think it's the biggest city in New York, right? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're in a very large city. There's plenty of Black photographers, Black women photographers. And that, like, and so and then I tweeted out my Twitter list, like, okay, here are like literally 150 Black women photographers to follow and hire. I tweeted that out, again, not thinking anything of it, but just
Yeah.
sharing that as a resource to the conversations that were happening, but also part of the frustration I had inside just from what
Yeah.
I experienced during my newsroom. And then that kind of garnered some traction. And then I started reaching out to the photographers on that Twitter list. Some were already reaching out to me. And I really just had a lot of conversation with some of the photographers, like just to gain a sense of like where they at in their journeys, and that they were feeling the same kind of sentiments I was feeling, like,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find community, trying to find opportunities, paid opportunities. How do I leave my 9 to 5 to do photography full time, right? Or am I always going to like try to juggle it all, right? And it was clear that, something more was still needed. There's already been great organizations that were doing the work to help photographers here in the States and internationally. But what I learned from those conversations was that there's still really a need for us as Black women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black women here, in the diaspora, just like really needing a designated resource for us to be seen, for us to be uplifted, for us to get hired, to be considered for these opportunities that we otherwise weren't thinking, being considered of
Right.
for. So, the first thing was to like build the directory. And so those who opted in just from that, me reaching out to them on Twitter, those are like the first initial members. I think it was like about 100 photographers. And then from there was, again, because, COVID-19, we didn't know how bad it could get at that time,
Yeah. Still
right? And so
early.
it was still early on. And so but hearing from just what I've heard from the conversations, a lot of the Black women photographers, they weren't even getting work before COVID. Like they were already like out
Mm.
of work, not getting paid prior to the
Yeah.
pandemic. And so I crowdsourced on Twitter, again, just tweeting at people from my timeline, from whoever really, whoever, could see my tweets. Basically, I was just tweeting at them, just trying to raise funds for a COVID-19 fund for Black women photographers here in the States and internationally. And just like tweeting, I was tweeting for like maybe like a month and a half straight. I was able to raise a little over 14,000 for Black women photographers who needed immediate relief just for the pandemic. It was just first come, first serve, out of good faith. And that really helps those who are just like, they just needed a bill paid or whatever immediate
Yeah.
need that they need, whatever support that offered. Like it felt like a lifeline when, again, there were some resources out there for artists, but this was specifically for us,
Right.
right? And I think that's what's just really remarkable about the things that we've done and the opportunities and partnerships we've had, because it's like, even like I mentioned, our grant fund, like that is designed for you, for us, right? Like
Right.
you already have a better chance of getting the grant because it's just for us. Like
You
um
immediately qualify.
like
Like,
you, right? Like we see you, we're here for you. We're just, we're
yeah.
designing these spaces, these opportunities for you, and based off of what we hear from our members, even like the conversations you host, like the reason you started this podcast, right? Like for
Yeah.
just from what you've seen, for us to be seen, because like we mentioned on the summit, the most recent one for the music photographers, I think you said this perfectly. Like, a lot of our members don't even get invited to speak, right?
Right.
For industry panels, for whatever it may be, they're not seen as experts in their field unless it's tied to something Black or whatever race related issue.
Mhm.
But yes, we can be experts in music. Yes, we can be experts in food photography, whatever it may be. Like, yes, we want to be seen and hired or considered for whatever X opportunity. And so, yeah, I think that right there, again, was like the most immediate thing, was just to get us hired and then provide support because of just what I was seeing, what was needed at that time. And then it just, like you said
It
earlier,
snowballed. It snowballed into this
it
incredible
did,
community
it
and
did,
resource. I
yeah.
feel like I've mentioned definitely on the summit. I don't know if I mentioned here on the podcast, but Black women photographers is in over 60 countries. There's thousands of members. We talk, we communicate, and we have the million of resources that Polly just listed of these things that we've been doing for 5 years, all led by Polly. Like, it's an incredible feat that you have managed to
I mean,
maintain this
thank
thing for
you,
five
thank you.
years.
I mean, it's, I think about it. I think the biggest thing that pops out is, like you said, it's like the 5 year thing is like, it's, you could do something on and off. It's like how people, for example, New Year starts, they have their New Year's resolution. They want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So they sign up for the gym. They're in there maybe the first 2 weeks, and then they forget. They
Mm-hmm.
sidetrack, whatever it may be. Maybe spring looms. Okay, 3 months in. I haven't been to the gym yet. Then
You
they go to the
know,
gym. Oh, summer. Summer's approaching. Okay, let me go to the gym. And then fall, they don't go to the gym. And then winter, like, oh shoot, summer bodies are made in the winter.
right, right. I can tap in
Let me
now.
let me restart the process. But it's like, no, we weren't doing that. It's not like it was a New Year's resolution for us. Like we were in the gym every day doing this work tirelessly.
Yeah.
When, again, thinking about the climate we're in now, when things are like, you know DEI related things or whatever, things that are designed for Black people, for Black and brown. I mean, here in the States, but also globally, like, there's a lot of efforts that are being cut, slashed, um,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like a lot of opportunities that existed or were born during the pandemic no longer exist now, right? Um, and it's a lot of things, but for me it's just like, okay, regardless of what's happening, like we are here because we care, and we're gonna always show up and do this work regardless whatever things are happening in the cultural context or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like we are, I think one reason why it's been so successful is because, not just because of us, me, whoever, behind the scenes, like constantly doing the work. But also because I feel like our members are just that special. They are constantly also doing the work, showing up for themselves, showing up for their fellow members. One of the ways we communicate is through Slack. And, I see people
Mm-hmm.
posting job opportunities, people saying like, hey, something came up, I'm looking for somebody to cover this. Sharing, resources or giving input in the advice channel for somebody who asked a question, who needs help navigating an issue, whether it's like, how do I, negotiate this rate or whatever, or how do I respond to this
Yeah.
client? I see that, and that I'm not running that. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
telling
it's
people
a
to,
group full of
you know,
people taking
yeah,
initiative
yeah,
since the early
yeah.
days.
Exactly. It's like I'm not telling people to respond to, somebody's question or whatever. People are organically doing that on their own because they too
Yeah.
believe in this mission. They believe in each other. And I think that's just so beautiful of just what I've seen in this past 5 years, from our photo walks, for our meetups, whatever. Again, all of that was people taking initiative, to your point, showing up for each other because they wanted community in their city. They wanted to
Yeah.
meet other Black women photographers that they didn't even know were around in the city. A lot of the times, like our meetups, were the first time, other Black women photographers met other Black women photographers. It was crazy, like,
Yeah.
and I think it's just so beautiful to witness because it's like, yeah, like, okay, I started this organization, I can be the face of it, so to speak, but like, I really see it as more so as like a collective thing, right? Like we all
Yeah.
collectively are here showing up and doing this work tirelessly when, things are being stripped away, when again, funding is being cut, when people aren't thinking about us because it's July, it's not February, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not March, right? It's not October if you're in London. Black History Month is in October for those who are in London, like in the UK. It's like it's not some identity based month. No, we are here doing it 24/7,
All year
30,
round.
65. You know what I mean? Like we're here every month, every week, whatever, doing this work and really, again, trying to provide, some tangible resources to our members. And our members are in return seeing the effort we have in the work we're doing. And then they put in that same effort to like pour back into the community, which is truly
Yeah.
beautiful.
I think now is definitely the time to go harder. And I think Photographer Life Check dropped kind of at a time perfect for that, where
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of creatives in general got a little nervous about all the cutbacks for
Right.
DEI, or just
Mm-hmm.
in general how much got cut back from creatives, especially Black or Black women creatives.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's a time to go harder. So why not keep going? Why not stay
Mm-hmm.
dedicated? And also what you said earlier, just about we all being in different countries, that reminds me some of these first conversations we have, and I mean still to this day, we're dealing with people in time zones far apart, and we would be
Mm-hmm.
hosting conversations where it's 3 o'clock in the morning for
Oh
someone,
yeah.
and they're still on, like at the time we were on Zoom, and they're
Yeah.
still on there, and we're still
Yeah.
talking and still like, hey, I have something to offer, or I want to digest, I want to take it all
Yeah.
in. And that's the kind of dedication we talking about. Like,
No,
we pull
literally.
up.
It's insane. It's literally that. I also remember I've taken 3 a.m., 4 a.m. business meetings,
You know, like,
you know, to try to get these partnerships for our international members and for our community in a whole. Like, yeah, like it's insane. Like, it really is. I think it's just beautiful. I think that, like you said, it's just a testimony to how dedicated everybody is to seeing this grow and thrive.
so since it all kind of fell into place like this,
Hmm.
do you feel like there was one moment that was a surprising challenge, or were all the challenges the ones that you expected?
Oh, Chrissy. That's a whole nother podcast.
Talking about ain't enough time.
Nah. Oh my God. Talking about the challenges. Oh my goodness. Again, like so many. But I think what surprised me the most, I think, about it all is just where I think where allies and people who've shown up to support the organization who don't identify as, as a
Yeah.
Black woman photographer, or, here in the States or internationally, those who do not identify as such, but truly, truly see why this work is important, why this, organization, the mission is important, and see, the critical work we've been doing, consistently. Like, they see that and they want to support. They want to see how they can help. They want to rally up their, their news desk, their photo room, their whatever,
Yeah.
right? They want to offer, partnerships or whatever it may be, or, even just like reviewing portfolios for our members. I think
Mm-hmm.
that to me has just been incredible. I mean, for example, I mentioned how our first anniversary in 2021, how we celebrated was announcing our partnership with Nikon to do this annual grant fund. And that wouldn't have happened without this music photographer named Todd Oyoung, and he's
Shout out to
incredible. I
Todd.
love Todd. He's incredible. Like, he's based in music. He's based in New York, and he does music, and he's a Nikon ambassador. And literally, I tweeted at him because, again, this was around the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, and he wanted to offer support to like Black photographers, and just be a resource to whoever needed that. And I tweeted at him, and then we had the conversation, and then he connected me to the people at Nikon, and from there it's just like it blossomed into this beautiful partnership
So
and
incredible.
relationship that we are doing like life-changing work. Like, that one introduction has now, again, like I said, nearly $250,000 in grant funding
Bruh.
through that partnership, and then even through Getty Images and Flickr and SmugMug, and other smaller grants that we've had, has been able to tally up to that, in just 5 years, which is insane to think about. And so I think for me, it's like
Yeah.
seeing where support can come from. you
Mm-hmm.
know, I think as photographers, we're so used to doing things alone. It's very individualistic, the work that we do at
Yeah.
times. But what I've realized when, being a founder, like, I can't do this alone. I really
Yeah.
cannot. I cannot. It really takes a village. It takes, members, like you said earlier, showing up, for each other. It takes, these allies. It takes, so many different things, so many moving parts, but at the grand scheme of things, the grand scheme of things is like it's that village, right? And so for me, it's just being able to see like all these people who are truly, genuinely just want to see us, succeed, see us get fair shots, see us having just like be on the same like starting line, right?
Yeah.
Right, like,
Some
and
real
just
equity.
like, just they want to generally just see that for us, even if it doesn't benefit them. They know how beneficial it is to the industry at large and why this matters.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's how it benefits them. And it's good to be in
exactly,
community with people like that.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
seeing that and seeing the again different people behind these different brands who really understand that, to your point, and like shown up and supported us. Like Adobe, for one, is one of the first brands that supported us.
Mm-hmm.
They support our annual BWP summit that you host.
Mm-hmm.
Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom, like, what, like, the biggest, like, they are the leading
They have to be.
they are the leading photo editing software for photographers and creatives. And they believed in the mission from day one, and they consistently support us, again, when they don't have to be, right, because
Yeah.
others have stopped doing their initiatives. They continue, and I think it's just so powerful. Again, so for me, it's just seeing that allyship, seeing where people
Yeah.
from all corners of this globe, you know emailing me or whatever, just offering support to our community, is just something I was not expecting. I really wasn't. And so I
Yeah.
think that has been one of the most surprising, like, but in a great way, like, of things. But in terms of challenges, again, yeah, hit me up when you want to do round two, episode
Right.
two.
We gonna have part 2.
Let me know.
Well, and I mean, that's okay, because I think one of the challenges is, girl, how you get your rest. Because, I mean, I guess we should have said this at the top, but not only is Polly our founder, but She is also now the current photographer for Governor Westmore in Maryland, the former first photo editor. That's a mouthful. For Vice President Kamala Harris, and also an incredible photographer and journalist in her own right.
Yeah.
Like, when do you sleep? When do you take breaks? When do you eat? How are you doing this?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I've learned, because what I alluded to earlier of like, resting before your body tells you to rest.
It
Yeah, that
tells
has
you.
happened to me. Like I've burnt out like before, and I truly am trying not to get to that place again. I think I finally
Yeah.
found myself in a good rhythm where I'm not. Um,
Nice.
Burning out, I can like start to feel like, okay, maybe I am doing too much, right? Like, and I can start I can start feeling that. Like I could kind of sense it now, and I've hit a pause. Um I lean on people, community. I admit I have a trouble doing that, because shout out to my mom who raised us to be very independent women, but like a little
Shout
too
out to
independent.
moms.
A little too independent. It's like, oh, I could just do it myself. No. Lean on community, lean on people,
Ask a friend, phone a friend.
come on, like lean on your village, your people, your community. And in return, they will be there and show up for you if you are, showing up for them. But like, I think early on, so with the organization, like you said, it had tremendous growth right from the beginning. But what people don't realize, like, I've always been working a full-time job when building this
Yeah.
organization. I've never not been working a full-time job. And at the very beginning, I was working multiple jobs, actually.
Mm.
Um, and I think for me, that was a lot, but also because, when you're building something, there's all these costs and things they don't account for, you don't think about. I've always wanted this just to be a free resources, free educational programming, free workshops, free summons, free portfolio reviews, free membership. Like I've never, built this in the tent with the intention of, making money for myself, right? I've
Mm-hmm.
never intended it to be a business or whatever. Like it is a full on now nonprofit for that reason. It's never intended to be that. It really was, just to create that,
Like,
solution for that need,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But with that said, things still cost money. We're in America. And even if you're not in America, nothing is really free. So it's
Exactly.
like, okay, for our website, the beautiful website where producers, photo editors, directors, whatever, go on and look at the directory or request access to the directory to hire you guys, that costs money. The website, the
Right.
domain, the monthly, the newsletters that people love to, read or not read. But, these days they don't read newsletters, but I feel like I think I'm actually very, sidebar. I think I'm very happy with our like click rate. People are actually like,
Nice.
okay,
Come on.
because we don't send out the newsletters consistently. So it's like when we do send out a newsletter, like, oh snap, okay, let me open this.
Come
Like,
on.
what time is
Yes,
the job due?
conversions. Ththese
You know what
conversions
I
are
mean?
looking good this month. Come
Okay,
on.
So yeah, but but needless to say, newsletter is like, all these little things, add up. And so a lot of it was like me just even, and still a lot of it is still self-funded.
Mm.
Even when it comes to just like the programming, whatever, like a lot of that is self-funded. And so it's like those things, I mean, the time it takes to plan a summit, the time it takes
Yeah.
to, because you have to plan, book people for your podcast on a weekly basis, right?
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes sending out so many emails. The partnerships that you all see on our social, feed, like we just announced our 4th year with Live Nation Urban, where we're getting people paid opportunities for music festivals and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That took time, right, to set up that partnership, the meetings or the calls or whatever. And then it continues to take time when we're nurturing that relationship and partnership and thinking strategically how we can continue it each year,
Yeah.
year and year, right? And that's just one of our many partnerships that we have. You know, we've had partnerships with, like I said, Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, Flickr, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, just
Smug
literally
mug.
Smug Mug. Oh my gosh, I'm like forgetting, but there's just so many.
Right. All
Photo
of the girls, all of them, all of them.
photo shelter, photo mechanic. Um, you know, just like you said, all the girls. But like when I think about that, I mean, even most recently, you know, we just did something with Pro Photo where we did a six city tour, a workshop, again, free workshop lighting tour, where we hired people to, you know, teach lighting with their Pro Photo equipment. Again, that took time, right, to set that up and the
Yeah.
logistics support of that, right, to coordinate shipping gear from each city. Like all of that stuff takes time. If it's not actual money, then it's actual time, and time is money. And so something got to give. And so for me,
Yeah.
when the first 2 years was like, I was working so many jobs and I was just trying to like process and figure out all of the stuff within the organization, from the admin stuff, from like the emails, onboarding people as members to the directory, managing the directory,
Mm-hmm.
making sure people's emails are, you know, up to date, their portfolio links aren't broken, where they can get hired. Like all these little things, like it was just a lot. And so like
And that's not
as
even taking into account what was going on in the world. Mind
it,
you, it's 2020 to 2021,
exactly.
or your personal life. You know, like there's so many
Yeah.
layers to just existing,
Oh
and
yeah.
you were really doing hard work,
Yeah.
real effort to get this
I I
thing off the ground.
I, I mean, for the first 2 years, I got like maybe 3, 4, maybe 3 hours of sleep each night. Like it was, it
The
was
whole
bad.
year.
No, literally, that's what it felt like. It was bad. It was really was bad. And I, you
Yeah.
know, I'm a photographer, but and then here I am a photographer, and my photography was starting to take off. I was starting to get like bigger name clients or whatever.
Mhm.
And I had to like put all that on pause because it's like I said, there's only so many hours in the day. You know,
Some
yes, we
things
have the
you
same, you
simply,
know,
you know.
yes, we have the same 24 hours as Beyonce, but Beyonce also has a team.
Exactly, and we had to secure that team.
And I did not have a team. Okay, I did not have a team. I was working so many jobs, did not have a team. I mean, running an organization is again a million jobs in itself. No funding, so all of this is coming out of pocket.
And all of
Um,
this also is like this specific type of organization. You're
yeah.
advocating for people a lot. So that's like emotional weight too.
Oh man,
And
it was
that's just a
hard.
lot. That's a lot to deal with.
It was. It really was. I was doing meetings with, you know, potential partners who are based internationally, like again at 2 or 3 a.m., whatever, Eastern time, like on my time zone. Like I was doing whatever it took. You know, I was even as you know taking calls with our members, trying to give them advice about their journeys, like really just being hands-on, very hands-on, maybe too hands-on, because it was just taking so much time out of my
Yeah.
day, that my photography was put on the back burner. So like for those first 2 years, I wasn't actively taking photos.
Yeah.
um you know, and it's like here I am, you know, also a photographer trying to also grow my career, and I had to put that on pause. I couldn't, because of how quickly the organization was growing, how
Yeah.
invested emotionally, and all of the, you know, things that you can be invested in, just to really see it grow, see us grow, and really see us, you know, take space in where I felt like we weren't taking space. And all the pieces eventually started to fall together, come together, which, you know, is beautiful. But you know, like you said, that in early initial point, yeah, that
It
was
was a lot
hard.
going
That was a
on.
lot. It really was.
I'm grateful you figured out how to like come back to yourself and like still check in with yourself now so that we
Yeah.
don't get another burnout. I mean, it's a very
Mhm.
human thing to be experiencing. And you dedicated so much of your time and literal life to this organization. And even though you had to put your photography on hold, I think just the development of BWP clearly supported the next part of your personal photography journey in working for the White House or Governor Westmore now. And I'm wondering if any of this was ever a part of like little Polly's dream. Like, did she always want to work for the White House? Did she always want to find this community? Who did she want to be? What did she want to do?
Oh man, great question. No, none of this was any to keep it simple. No. Um, Little Polly wanted to work for the National Geographic as a
Oh,
photographer.
yes.
Like I love to travel. I love to do storytelling of all forms. And photography and writing is like my choice of medium. Um, and yeah, I that was like Little Polly's dream. But like as you grow older, whatever, like obviously, dreams evolve.
Yeah.
And working at the White House was not on any grand scheme plan. It really was not. And I think it's just beautiful to see that, especially I think here living in the US, what dreams are possible, even when you didn't think were possible, right? Like
Yeah.
it never dawned on me that a Black woman photographer could be working at the White House. And then I
Yeah.
learned about Sharon Farmer, who was the first Black woman photographer working at the White House,
Ooh,
and then
come
followed by
on.
Cameron Smith, who was my colleague, and then myself. Only 3 Black women photographers
Your
in the White House, period.
colleague.
My
That's
colleague.
crazy.
My colleague.
I'm definitely adding them to the list so we can look up these goats.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like thinking about that, like, wow, only 3 of us in the history of the White House's history, whatever that was, right? Documenting history, only 3 of us who've been able to do that from our unique perspectives. Me, as a Black and also African woman, Cameron as a Black woman, like Sharon Farmer as a Black woman. And Sharon Farmer was also the first, to be the director of the White House Photography Office, first African American and first woman, like African American woman. Like, it's just,
You made history, girl.
yeah, but it's also just like, again, it's baffling to think, when you think first you never thought you could be in that space, and when you're in that space and you think about, wow, so few of us have been in that space, it really is like baffling to think about.
Yeah.
And that time ended for me 6 months ago. So these past 6 months, I haven't even fully processed what I, partook in the past 3 years. I joined in 22. And so it really is, I think, again, a testament to what can happen when you just are consistently doing the work. So yeah, like I took those 2 years off of being actively shooting, but I was still brushing up on different parts of my skill set.
Yeah.
I mentioned like at the time I was working in New York Public Radio, doing social media. At that time, I felt like I was ready to do a pivot. Like one thing I always tell people, whenever you want to pivot. Like life is too like grand, like and beautiful. Like you can pivot, you can do whatever, you can
Yeah.
jumpstart, you can. If you are listening to this podcast and you're not a photographer and you want to be a photographer, pick up a camera. Like literally, just like do it.
Just
Just do it.
start.
Like
Literally
just
just do it.
start. Just do the thing, right? And so for me, it's like I wanted to know what it took to be a photo editor because I wanted to know what it took to be hired as a photographer, and then also for my members in the organization, what it took for them to be, to stand out amongst the sea of photographers, what are editors looking for? And so I really wanted to learn that. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to start applying for photo editor roles.
Come
Okay.
on.
I didn't get any photo editor roles. I had I had to then start applying for photo editor internships and fellowships.
Okay.
So I left a full-time job in the pandemic to become a photo editor fellow, which is basically like an intern,
Yeah.
for The Intercept. It was only 3 months. They thought I was crazy, but they still believed in me, gave me a shot. Like they were like, "Are you sure? We don't have a job for you after this."
Right. I know what I'm doing.
I
Don't worry
know.
about it.
I know. You really sometimes you gotta just take that leap and bet on yourself. And
Yeah.
luckily I knew like worst case scenario, like I could live with my mom, I could live at home. I'm fortunate to have that, so I'll be okay in that sense. Like at least I'll have a house. Everything else I have to figure out. At least I'll have a roof under me. But anyways, I applied, got the fellowship, and then from there I started doing other freelance photo editing roles. I
Nice.
joined being transfers. We present vertical as a freelance photo editor, and just started doing other freelance photo editor contracts, which then in a few years, like 2-3 years later, led me to the White House as the first, official photo editor, the only photo editor for the vice president. And so from there, being able to do that, I came in as a photo editor, but I'm fortunate that that team was so great. Adam and Lawrence, who are like our direct supervisors. Adam was our chief photographer. Lawrence was the vice president's chief photographer. And being able to work under them and being able to then also be a photographer within the Biden-Harris administration, like that was just also incredible, because I never thought, like I told you, when I went to my first journalism conference, I never thought, oh, one day I'll be a photojournalist and I'll be documenting history, the first Black and South Asian woman vice president. No, that was never a part of it. Like, never thought of that would ever come to be, or even that I would still remain in the public service, and be one of the photographers for the office of Governor Westmore. Like, again, not on my vision board or anything of that nature, but for me, what's been at the core of it all has been storytelling, has been photography, has been, just capturing the moment, whatever that moment is. And for me, these past few years have been like historical moments, being able to capture and edit those historical moments. But like, yeah, for whatever comes next, it will always include some form of storytelling, whether it's here in the States, whether it's for another administration, whether it's based internationally. I don't know. I'm really just open to it all. Or I think the more open you are to where life could take you, I think that's where, if you're not stuck on a certain end goal, then you will have more, like, you will just naturally adapt and just let life take its course. You know what I mean? Like that, it really is. Just like, don't be so stuck on the specific end goal, because then you'll be missing out what may be at this curve, what might be at this turn, whatever, right? And I think that's just, like you said, it's just magical, it's beautiful. And I'm like, I'm still young.
Right.
I'm still young, so I'm just gonna go with the ebbs and flows of life and see where my next chapter will take me. I have no idea what that was looking like yet. I can't tell you what I'll be doing 5 years from now. I just again know it'll be some form of storytelling, but also some sort of really hopefully traveling, and then truly always advocating for us in all the forums, right? So I just know that will be in my next chapter.
Can we dream out loud a little bit though? Since you brought up like the next 5 years, for Black women photographers specifically, don't worry, we don't have to worry too much and like be like, where's Polly gonna be in 5 years?
Thank God.
But, right? Not too much pressure.
I'm great. I think about other people,
like most photographers too, where we like,
no.
But for BWP, over these next 5 years, maybe what's just one thing you would love to see, feel, another partnership you'd love to have? Like, what's something that you would love to imagine for us all?
I would want for this organization to continue, being the leading force for providing real, tangible support and resources to Black and African women creatives across the globe. I want to see us do that on a greater scale. Like I said, within these 5 years, we've reached almost $250,000 in grants, additional $80,000 in camera gear. I would love to see us reach, $1 million in grants one day.
Yes,
I really would. I would love to see that. Like,
I think we could do that.
Which that would be exactly like
that would be crazy.
Whatever more partnerships we can form to reach that goal, like I'm open to it. I want to continue providing these free educational resources and workshops, because I think it's beautiful that we are growing up in this digital age, that we can be connected just like by the touch of a phone, where we can have, like you mentioned, members join us, who are based across the globe, and stay on till 3 a.m. or whatever.
Okay.
Because, it's just incredible. I think that's just so powerful. And while we have that, available to us, I want to take advantage of it. So that's why we do as much as programming we can online and virtually, so everybody can have access to it, whether you identify or not. Like, all of it's there on our YouTube channel, free for you to utilize, because there's so much to this industry, whether you're a photographer, videographer, photo editor, whatever. Like, there's so many, like you mentioned this in the music summit, there's so many job paths avenues and things that you could take, and a lot of it you don't know that even exists as a road for you until you hear from somebody else doing that, until
Yeah.
you hear from their experience and you see like, wow, you know, there's a wildlife photographer in Kenya named Imara, like, and I could do this
I
like
could
her.
do that, right? Like,
I could do wildlife filmmaking, like, in Nairobi, Kenya, like she is, or wherever, like, you don't think about it until you see it, like, that quote of, like, "You can see it, you could be it," in that sense, like, that's why it's so powerful when we do these workshops and these conversations, these summits, whatever, like, because people then can see themselves doing it, and so I wanna see us doing more of that. We're gonna be kicking off different summits throughout this year, focused on different niches, just to, like, again, meet our community where they're at and see, like, okay, we have a lot of music photographers in our community. And so here are some of the best photographers, learn from them, try and
yeah.
avoid some of the mistakes they, had, get their gear list, like, whatever. Like, I want to just continue doing more of that. And I think for me, it's truly important just because, again, my upbringing of just like how I was raised, how education was so important, like that
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is power, like, it could take you anywhere and everywhere. And so I just want to see us doing more of that, those free resources in the portfolio reviews as well, because the portfolio reviews have been game changers for so many of our members.
Yeah, they really have.
We've partnered with the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, Reuters, Getty
Rutgers, yeah.
Images, like all of these major platforms, news publications, and others, to provide our members free portfolio reviews, where most portfolio reviews can cost hundreds of dollars, right, elsewhere. And we've been able to do that, and a lot of these photographers have been hired since doing a portfolio review. Like, I think of Taiwo Aina, who's based in Lagos, Nigeria. She did a portfolio review with the New York Times. A year later, that editor reached out to hire for an assignment. And then that assignment that she did was a front page story for the New York Times.
Come
Imagine,
on.
and then since then, she's done more work for that. It's just incredible. It's just like things
It's
like that,
life-changing
you know?
work.
Now
It's
she can say, like,
crazy.
she's a regular contributor to the New York Times. And that's several of our members,
Yeah.
who are regular contributors for the New York Times and other outlets. And so for me, it's like, I want us to continue doing that. But in my head, I'm like, okay, how can we make that even on a greater scale? Like, what does that look like? Do we start taking some of these things, in person? I don't know, because
Yeah.
I part of me is like, even like you were mentioning, like, the podcast doing it in person, but even the
Yeah.
summit, I've thought about like doing our summits in person. That would be incredible, just to have that in-person community,
It really would.
on a greater scale. But then it's like, we could do it in person. There goes, again, more costs and resources that,
Yeah.
you got to account for. And then it's like, okay, how can we hold it and still keep it free? That would be almost virtually impossible. It really would. And then how do we get people, who have been streaming, internationally? How do they get to enjoy the experience when they're not able
Yeah.
to, join in person? It's all these different things, but those are the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about. Okay, like, what would that look like? Maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever. But truly, at the end of the day, it's just providing Black and African women creatives, the resources, the community, the opportunities, just
Yeah.
greater scales. That's just what I want to see us for the future.
I think it's completely possible. I think in the way that I would love to dream out loud with you in this moment
Yeah.
is to see more in-person BWP things. I would love to see
Hmm.
BWP at festivals for speaking engagements, or I just
Right.
learned about
Right.
a photography festival out in LA that just started
Mm.
this year, I think. Things
Okay.
like that, where it's like,
Yeah.
it would be beautiful to have a
Absolutely.
collective, just pull up, a couple members just pull up or be part of it. And I think the
Hmm.
partnerships and the sponsorships will definitely come. I mean,
Hey,
our
y'all
our
know the
portfolio
word.
is crazy. Right?
Y'all,
Hey,
come on. Y'all know where to find us. Okay.
hit the line.
Polly at blackwomenphotographers.com.
There
Send
you
me an
go.
email. Send an email to partnerships at blackwomenphotographers.com and hit
And
up the
get this
partnerships team.
funding
Like, come on,
rolling.
please.
But I completely agree. I love the fact that free resources has been a part of the mission since day one for you and then the team
Mhm.
as it has grown. I think that's
Mhm.
so important because funding is typically the barrier for any creative, but
Exactly.
especially creatives like us, where, we are working hard to just get to the door, let alone through
Right.
the door.
Right.
And the fact that we have all of these free resources is completely invaluable and clearly has already changed so many lives, hundreds, if not thousands of lives already.
Mhm.
So I love that. Thank you for dreaming out loud with me.
Oh, anytime.
Yes, this feels like a good place to take a break. So we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Art House, the first Black-owned film lab in the city of Los Angeles. All my photography homies love Art House because they specialize in C41, black and white, E6, and ECN2 processing for both 35 millimeter and medium format film, all while using a custom built cinema scanner to get you those stunning movie quality stills. So go pick up and drop off a roll at their new location in Chinatown and check them out at arthousefilmlab.com or arthousefilmlab on IG and tell them we sent you. I want to take this intermission to just drop a couple more gems. I mean, we're getting all deep into it. And Polly already mentioned so much of what we have done, but I just want to reiterate BWP Collective is a global directory and database. We have a fully functioning database for people who are looking to hire Black women photographers or Black non-binary photographers and find where they are, the type of photography that they do. It's a full fleshed out system. And we have thousands of members in over 60 countries. So we could be worldwide. If you're looking for someone in London, in Lagos, or in Los Angeles, we got you. You see how I did that? I didn't even mean to do that on purpose, but you know what I'm saying? I be rapping sometimes. But as Polly mentioned, we have distributed over $200,000 in financial grants to Black creatives worldwide, specifically, and distributed over 100K in camera gear. Shout out to all our partnerships. Speaking of partnerships, let me just shout out some of the things we've done. So, Polly earlier, she mentioned that we had free portfolio reviews. I benefited from one of those portfolio reviews, and we don't mess around. Like, we've gotten portfolio reviews from people at Getty, NPR, Washington Post, New York Times, the list goes on. And we've also gotten members hired or discovered from those same companies and other brands like Photoville, Adobe, Capture One. In fact, with Capture One, we distributed over 100 free licenses for Capture One. I also benefited from that a couple of years ago. We've also partnered with people like Essence Fest, B&H Photo. Waco Theater Center was a great one because they hosted a group exhibit here in LA a couple years ago. And our previous guests, Alexis Hunley and Sade India, and probably Samo, were all a part of it. We've also worked with so many more brands, but just to name a few more: Visco, NASDAQ, Live Nation Urban, of course, Afropunk, Tracktown USA, World Athletics. Like, the list goes on and on. So many of our members have shot at multiple festivals like Dreamville Fest. And specifically, like, the partnership was built so that we can co-collaborate together in that way. And through all of this, we've also provided free resources. One of our missions is to provide free and accessible educational programming with things like our YouTube channel and the BWP Summit. The first year, Polly hosted the BWP Summit, and since the second year, I've been hosting that summit, and they're all free to join. All you have to do is RSVP, and it's helped hundreds of Black women photographers. We've also done things like launched a free multi-city lighting workshop tour with Pro Photo. Like, come on. And we also hosted over 100 photo walks around the world, including me. I co-hosted one with Amari Dixon and Jessica Bethel a couple years ago, and I believe it was LA's first one. And after that, Amari and Jessica continue to host these photo walks for the BWP Collective based here in LA. And this is all due to the fact that not only did Polly start something incredible, but we are a group of members full of initiative. Polly isn't telling us, y'all heard her, she's not telling us to do these things and make these moves. We saw a woman with great ambition and great passion, and we were all like, okay, how can we participate? And not only participate, how can we add to this? How can we make it expand? And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about BWP. So I'm so grateful. And I just want to say another happy birthday to Polly and happy birthday to BWP. I'm so happy to be in this community. And I guess now we can get back to the show. And we're back. Okay, so these last few segments are some of my faves of the whole
Okay.
show. The first one being photographs not taken. So, for those who don't know, the question is, what's your favorite photograph you wish you would have taken? I have this thought all the time. There are photographs I
Mm.
never took for various reasons that live with me all the time. And so, on one hand, I just always want to know what other image makers are thinking about, what is constantly in your mind. And then, secondly, the title of this segment is based on a book, Photographs Not Taken, where it's basically like an anthology list of other
Mm.
photographers answering this question. And I thought it was just super impactful, and I wanted to continue that work. So, Polly, what's your favorite photograph you haven't taken or you wish
Dang,
you would
that's
have taken?
no, that's such a great, profound question. I think, hmm, that is so hard. because because for me it's like, as image makers, there's so many moments we see. I mean, we're just constantly being flooded with images, right? And then also then to just like go out in the world and look up from your phones, right? And then see the images. Um I mean, for me it's like everywhere I go I feel like there's an image I could make. And so for
Yeah.
me it's like I think for me it's like try and shut that brain off, right? So it's like,
Mm,
and I know if I'm trying to shut that brain off, then I usually don't have a camera with me.
yeah.
But then we also have our phones. So then it's like, okay, maybe I'm like, oh no, no, stop it, I took this photo with my
Right.
phone. Because phone, that counts too. But like, dang, I don't know. That is hard because I feel like these days, unless I'm really trying to be in the moment, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll say this. My most recent one was this past week. I was in Paris, attending this event called the Breaking Four, where this Kenyan athlete named Faith. She's like truly one of the best athletes of our generation. Um,
Truly. Oh,
she's
it was such a
incredible.
time.
She's incredible, and she was trying to break the 4 minute mile for the women barrier, where no woman has run a mile under 4 minutes.
Hmm.
And so she beat her personal best world record. Her world record was like 4:07, and I'm probably missing some change on there. And
Right.
so and this time, this it wasn't a qualifying race, it was just again a historic moment, and she did it in 4:06. So she shed over a second of her time in that attempt. But, you know, I made the conscious decision of like not bringing my camera equipment. I just wanted to really,
Wow.
I know, I know, I could have. Sometimes, on the flight back from Paris, I was like, man, maybe I should have. But no, but I think I really wanted to be there presently in the moment because she's
Yeah.
just inspired me as, you know, I think it's just so incredible when you see other people in other fields just be the best at what they do, and seeing how you can translate that type of like mentality to your own
Yeah.
craft.
Hmm.
Yes, she's a runner, but she's not a photographer to my knowledge. She's a runner. She's an elite athlete. But she really is one of my biggest inspirations because just seeing what she's been able to do and how she continues to push herself and push for excellence, and also bring others up along with her. She's competing as one of the best, but she's also making sure there's other Kenya women or other women in general, just other athletes following behind her footsteps, and she's leaving that door open for the next generation of young girls who want to compete
Yeah.
in sports or in track and field or whatever it may be. Um, and so for to see that of like how she does that, and she's a mother and just all that she does, and even though she's has all these accolades, I think 3 Olympic medals, like,
Hmm.
world
And
records,
had a
this,
baby in between them and still
it's
won.
I'm telling you, like, she's one of she's super decorated in medals. Like, she's already reached the top of her field, but she still continues to think about, okay, what's next? What's more? How else can I push myself? And for
Yeah.
her, it was that breaking four attempt. Not only just because it would push herself, but also push the sport forward. It has pushed track and field forward. And seeing that, um, was truly inspiring. I wrote about it. I did a little reflection essay
Nice.
for it, for that moment, because for me, I didn't bring my camera, but I took this photo like of her after she crossed the finish line, and they draped the Kenyan flag on her, and then she went
Yes.
to high five another Kenyan athlete and hug her. And I took it on my phone. I'm just, dang, it looks so good. It's, that moment was there. I captured it perfectly, like, because then I was in the crowd in the stands, and there was
Yeah.
like people waving their Kenya flags, and so I like framed it where it's like it's her and the
Oh,
Kenya flag framed underneath, like on top of her, and it's such a beautiful moment. And I'm like,
yeah.
it looks, you can tell it's a great shot on my phone, but it could have been the shot, better shot if I had actual, camera equipment. So,
Yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, it's like one of those moments like, dang, I wish I had my camera, because all the emotion I saw from the stands and that bird's
Mm,
eye view, like, I could only imagine what it would look like if I actually had my gear with me. But I think for me is, again, I've been trying to do better of like being intentional, like being in the moment for things where I don't
yeah.
have to be a photographer at. Like, okay, I could just be there as a person and enjoy that and be
Yeah.
inspired by that, and that's okay. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to have a professional photo of that. So for me, I think that's the moment to answer your question.
That's so
Um,
real. I mean, it's hard to choose sometimes.
yeah, it
I do
is.
that sometimes, and then when I leave, I'm like, dang, I wish I would have got a photo of that thing or
Yeah,
this moment or something like that.
yeah.
It's so cool that you were there though, to be able to document that, to see that, and to feel that energy. I completely agree. She's such an incredible athlete. I don't follow um like all of the Olympic sports
Mhm.
regularly, but during the Olympics, I'm like locked in always.
Yeah.
And she is
Yeah.
always one of my favorite runners to watch. I think she's so incredible. And
Truly.
to do something like this, I think even though it was still an attempt and she wasn't necessarily successful in that attempt, she still shaved off a second, which might not
Mhm.
sound like much for somebody who runs slowly. But when you run at her level, that's a crazy that's a crazy amount of time
It's
and
insane.
years worth of dedication in order to accomplish. So shout out to
Mhm.
Faith. And also I love this. This is probably one of my favorite photographs not taken.
Like, and I think like you were talking about feeling the energy. Like, I don't think I would have, when you're like shooting, you're observing and you're like, quickly, like whatever, but
And like locked in.
you're locked in. You're not necessarily feeling the crowd. You see that in your photos, but you're not
Yeah.
fully present in that way where you can, I think, be locked in other aspects of it all. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna say I'm happy with not carrying my gear right now. But on the flight, when I was scrolling through, I was like, oh my God, these would have been incredible photos.
That's so
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
Speaking of the gear, the next segment is the
Hmm.
gear don't matter, but I
But,
like this segment because, the main thing folks always say about photographers is like, oh, what
yeah,
camera are you using? What camera are you using?
right.
Plenty of people assume the gear makes the image, and that isn't entirely true.
Hmm.
But we do love our gear. It's the tools in which we are able to express ourselves creatively. So I would love to know, what's your favorite piece of equipment that you use? And it doesn't have to be a camera. It can be, but it doesn't have to
Ooh,
be.
I love that. I think I'm sure people mentioned this, the Nifty 50. I think that lens like has gotten me through so much. Like that's
Truly,
like,
us all.
like that was like my first lens, like outside of the standard kit lens that I ever purchased. I was like, oh my God. And I think it's the one that like I've had the longest.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cause
I
like
mean,
you
it's a good
said,
choice.
like,
It's called Nifty 50 for a reason.
like I don't have much of, I really don't shoot with a lot, right? And so for me, it's like I keep the same equipment for a long period of time. I don't have many bodies
Nice.
or whatever. I just have two bodies, two lenses. I'm very simple in that format. Like one day I'll be able to build out my gear locker more, hopefully. But like you said, if you have the eye, you can get the job done. And my
Exactly.
gear, but then like you said, there is a time where you need to upgrade. But for me, I'm good right now. I'm good with what I have. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Shout out to that Nifty 50 for holding us all down. And our last segment is called Shoot Your Shot. So I would love to know,
Ooh.
it could be poly only related, or it could be
Okay.
BWP related, because it's both of
Okay.
y'all birthdays. So, whoever
Okay.
you want to talk about. Who is
Mm.
somebody or company you would love to photograph for or partner with if you're doing BWP?
Oh my gosh. I would love for myself to do a tour. Like, I would love to go on a
Ooh.
music tour. Like,
Yes,
I would love to do
Polly.
that.
Okay, I need to know who. We have to manifest this. Which artist? Who do you want to go?
Oh my god. Oh my god. I think for me it's like, okay, there's like some of like the big name like African artists out right now
Yeah.
that have been dominating the scene for some time doing the work, and like, oh my god, that I'm tempted to say their names to do right, but then also part of me is like, little me who grew up in Kansas in the Midwest, like I would also follow somebody who's like not as known, and
Okay.
document their journey and see where that takes them, and maybe they blow up, maybe they don't, maybe they're just like a local favorite. Like, who, like, for me, that doesn't matter to me, right? I would just love to experience that, the moments that you don't see,
Mm.
leading up to the part where they get to the stage, whether it's like the quiet moments on the tour bus, whether it's like in their dressing room, whatever it may be, like those quiet moments, like love, especially when you can see a
Mm.
different side of a person. What gets them going, who's their team, like whatever, just capturing those moments in documentary style. I would love to do so. Honestly, the music is something that inspired me, because like I first started as a music photographer and then I stopped. So
Ah.
yeah, so like that, like the summit, like reignited like that curiosity in me, like, okay, what would that look like following an artist? Because artists, like musical artists, like they're some of the most talented, most dedicated people to their craft.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be just like, again, another way to light that fire under me, like, seeing other people who, again, are doing things at the highest level in their industry, seeing that will inspire me to like, how can I could do that in my respective industry. But like, I think that'd be fun.
That would be so fun. I
You
would
know, I
love
think
to
that's,
see you on tour.
I think that's some of the work that you would have to do when you're young and you don't have when you
I
have the
know,
energy,
right?
but also if you don't, if you don't have any children or whatever, like I don't have any of that, so it's like,
I was
well,
like, just go.
I can live from my backpack. I know it's not glamorous. I've talked to like, a lot of music photographers. I heard from our
Yeah.
conversations at the summit, like it's not glamorous being on tour. It's a lot. It's draining. It's taxing being on the road. But I think that would be exciting. And being able to challenge myself as a photographer, like, how do I, document the same show in a new way, in a different
Mm-hmm.
city, in different venues with terrible lighting, whatever it may be. Like
Right.
I would love that. So I think I would love to do that for myself at some point in my journey. I think I'd want it to be with an African artist, or somebody who's lesser known. Maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
Midwest, maybe their hometown hero, whatever, maybe just in seeing them grow and whatever.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah, so I think that for myself. For the organization, hit up our partnerships team.
Come on.
I would just love more partnerships. If you feel like, if you're listening to this, your brand is missions aligned, or you yourself, you're an ally, whoever, or you're, a fellow creative and you want to get back to the community, hit us up. We're always here, always, ready to, receive support. From those who really truly believe in our organization and who align with our interests. So just reach out.
Beautiful. Polly, this was a perfect conversation. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Your birthday, our birthday. This was so beautiful. Can you please tell the people where you would like to be found? Outside of,
Yeah.
the partnerships email. Y'all heard it.
Yeah, you can find me on you can find me at Irungu on all platforms. But most importantly, you can find Black Photographers at all platforms. Just go to blackphotographers.com to hire a fellow creative, to support our organization, to whatever it may be, just to share, the resource with whoever you feel like would appreciate the work that we do, day in and day out. Hit us up, follow us. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say, but
that's perfect.
Outside of that, though, I want to take a second to shout you out. Like, Chrissy, you have just
all
been
right,
incredible.
time to go.
No, listen, that's how I felt when you had me on here. As soon as I put on my headphones, I was like, what am I doing? Because, like, yeah, I'm the founder, but I love being behind the scenes. I love staying behind the scenes. I truly do. I think I've become like those introverts but extroverts when you have to be type of thing. Whatever that's called.
Ambivert.
That's me.
That's what
okay.
Yeah, okay. I identify as an ambivert too. Okay. I'll be like, when I gotta turn it on, I can do it.
I can turn it on. I can talk. I can. I love that. Love that for us. I could be out there, be social, but I love my me time. I love my peace. But for you, I don't know how you do it. Like, you are just always just this like light. Truly, you're one of the biggest lights in our community. I'm just so thankful for you. For we talked about earlier about people who just like show up, and are really truly wanting to see this community grow, and you're one of them. Like, you literally, like, you host these summits, and I'm telling y'all, hosting a summit is not easy. It is not
we
easy.
Be on the back end like team typing fast, okay?
But you are literally talking and exuding energy and keeping the conversation flowing and going, being mindful of time and all the things all day for 3 days straight in your beautiful space with the purple background drop. Like, I don't know how. No, but right, like, you keep the energy going. It's not easy. And then on top of all the daily things you do in your own life and as a photographer yourself, like, it's just incredible, like, all the ways you pour into this community. So thank you, Chrissy.
Wow.
Truly,
thank you so
truly.
much, Polly.
And this podcast, oh my God, it's been one of my favorite things. Like, now I have a long commute to work these days, and I just tune in. I just listen. Yay! Like, I really do. For my drive, it really makes and then before I know I'm at where my destination I need to be, my next assignment. But it's just been like a breath of fresh air, and the sea of podcasts has truly been a breath of fresh air, and that's credit to you. So thank you. You deserve your flowers. Okay. Shout out to you.
Thank you. Shout out to us.
Wait, how do I do it? Yeah, okay, there you go. Like, teach me your ways.
I'm gonna get a horn in here for real. Yeah. And so I can get some buttons for us so it can really be popping.
Yeah, absolutely.
But truly, thank you so much. This is a perfect way to celebrate this birthday. I'm grateful to have you here. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be a part of BWP in this way. And also just as a student, like, I still tune in. I learn from all the guests here at PLC, and I still tune in to our live streams, our summits, our everything, because I still want to be tapped in. So I hope you have a beautiful birthday, and I hope all of our members are having a beautiful birthday with us too. You can find Photographer Life Check everywhere you get your podcasts, but especially you can watch us on Spotify and YouTube. So please subscribe there. Also subscribe to us on YouTube at Black Women Photographers, so you can get everything we've done over these past 5 years straight to your phone or your computer. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.